All right, guys, so last time we talked about the rack, some of our lighting, the roam awning, and a few other things on the truck. If you didn't get a chance to watch that video, click the link below and check that out. So since the last time, we've actually done a lot to the truck to be able to get it done for the Baja 1000. We've mounted a cooler, we've mounted a jack, we finished wiring up all the lights, the awning is hard mounted, powder coated the rack, mounted the tires, mounted the air tank, mounted the welder, loaded a bunch of tools in the thing. There's still a lot more to do, but we're knocking it out. With the way that the cooler and everything worked, we had to do a custom jack mount. We couldn't lift the jack out of the holder. We actually had to have the jack slide in underneath because we wanted the cooler mounted right above it. So we had to do a little custom mount. Pretty cool deal. Got a spring-loaded pin, pull it down, and the thing wheels right out. Captures in nice and tight. Tailgate locks it into place. So right above our jack is our Roam 65 cooler. It's mounted in a nice secure aluminum mount that we got to send off to powder coat. It bolts into the side of the bed, two legs come down so it doesn't take up a ton of room into the bed. Mounts just above the top of the bed rails so we can open and close the lid perfectly without it interfering into the side of the bed. Awesome setup and nice and secure for when we're cruising down the roads in Mexico. So for our generator, we have to have a generator to be able to run our welder. You're out in the middle of nowhere, you can't just plug it into a wall. So we have to run a generator. We went with a Polaris Power, a 3200 generator. Nice and compact, cool little case. It's got some beefy tires on it so you can wheel it around in the desert. Normally we just kind of strap it in. I wanted to do something a little bit different, so we built a trick little mount for it. Bolts into the floor so there's minimal that stays into the bed of the truck when the generator is not in there. And it's lockable too, so you actually throw a padlock through it that helps secure it into place. The generator can't move around. You don't have to worry about someone walking off with it. So awesome setup. The Polaris generator is a great setup for the back of these trucks. So different races require different fueling. So what we ended up doing for this truck was we ran a thing of E-Track down the side to be able to change the different fuel jug configurations. Sometimes we have 2, sometimes we have 4, maybe 1, depending on what the truck's doing as far as the race goes, will determine how many fuel jugs we actually bring with us. So we just put one sheet of E-Track down the side. We'll strap those things in with a nice E-Track strap. Works really good, and it takes care of all the different scenarios we could possibly have. So we're going to utilize a Y-strap to be able to tie in 4 different tires on the chase truck. We've got 2 on each side. Both of them are mounted with the Y-strap. They come down to a single E-Track hook right in the middle. So clip in there. The Y-strap keeps them nice and steady. They can't roll back and forth or tip over or anything. So really clean setup. That's all done in there. So tires are ready to go in and we're ready to move on. So since we got the rack powder coated, we got all the lights hard mounted in there and wired up. So they work great. We've got 2 on the sides, 1 in the center of the bed, and then 2 on either side of the bed that are telescoping. They go up about 15 inches. So the top of these bins actually tilt up so you can put more parts in them. So we had to get the wires through the back of the truck without the top of the bin pinching the wire off or anything like that, because it's nice tight fit in there with a rubber gasket. So we ended up having to come up with a way to do that. And these plugs that we found have a nice bulkhead on them, nice plastic fitting, drill a hole through it, the wires go through and they bolt into place. So you have a nice sealed connection. So welder is something that you hope to not have to use when you're out there on the race course, but it's something that you have to have if you need it. So we went with the Miller welder. We're gonna run mixed gas in it, and we've got the generator to be able to power it wherever we're at. So we have all this stuff hard mounted in here. There's a strap holding the welder in. We got a separate mount for the gas bottle. The regulator is mounted here on the wall. The cord is mounted to the box itself. Everything kind of has a home and a spot, so it doesn't move around a whole lot, and we can kind of bomb through the desert and get to the car wherever we need to and utilize the welder if we have to. So last time we had the drawers pulled out of this back corner to be able to wire up and mount the lights on the back of the bed. We got those reinstalled, and there's going to be a bunch of common tools that we're going to want to pull out of every single pit no matter what the car is doing. It'll have an impact with a 19mm for the lugs. It'll have clutch stuff in case we need to change a belt or do anything with the clutching. It'll have an air gauge to check tire pressures. Anything else that we think that we will have to have out at every single pit stop, no matter what, will be in this back corner where you open one bin and everything's right there. It'll be tucked away nice and neat in these drawers. So in the last truck, we actually had onboard air with a little compressor and about 5 gallons of air storage. Really convenient setup. It's nice to have until the system fails, and then you don't have any air. So on this one, we decided to go with the CO2 bottle. It's portable, it's mounted on its side with a siphon tube so we can actually utilize it mounted on its side. It'll be plenty enough air for what we're using it for, and it'll fill up our tires and do whatever it is that we need to do, but great setup and portable. So moving on to the next bin of the truck, this may not be the stuff that we have to use at every single pit, but it's pretty common stuff that we do have to get to. It's the small parts of the car, nuts and bolts, stuff like that we might, run into an issue and have to rob something out of one of these bins to be able to go and put on the car to get us up and going again. The other thing is the dry brake system that we run. We'll build a little mount for those that'll be nice and secure. They're high dollar items, so you want to make sure that they're protected and in the exact spot, and they have a home to where you know exactly where they're at no matter what, so you can put fuel in the car. So the next bin forward, we've got all of our hand tools and our power tools. Everything is in one location, so you can check it out, make sure that you have whatever tools you're going to need to be able to fix the car in any scenario. We try to make sure we go over the car and make sure that we have every tool possible. And there's some additional tools in there that may not work for the race car, but they might work for the truck. So we need to make sure that we have everything that we need to be able to get us to that next pit and get us to the finish line. In addition to the tools, we also have all of our chemicals that are going to be down here. There's a little rail that's going to go in to keep those things in place, and a radio. So this radio is actually a dual face radio. It's a 110 watt dual face radio. It has a screen in here and has a screen inside the cab that we'll show you later. One power button controls both of them, and it also is connected to the antenna that's right here in the bed. You'll disconnect this antenna and you'll go and plug in the big antenna for when you're at a stationary pit. You stand up the big antenna, you get a lot further range to be able to talk to the car longer distances. So chemicals that you might need to either clean the car, clean your visors, put oil in the car, brake clean something, whatever it might be, or oil or whatever, all those chemicals will be here. All your tools will be here, and radio to be able to communicate with the car, long distance, short distance, whatever you need. And for the roof, we've got one of these Roam cases that we're going to put actually our shock absorbers in. The shocks are really big, really long on these cars, and they take up a lot of room. So instead of putting them in the bins of the truck, we're going to throw them in this Roam case and keep them nice and safe and secure up here on the roof. So on the interior of the truck, we've got our two radios. We got one of the two 110 watt faces mounted in here and an additional 50 watt radio. The 50 watt radio is going to be used to monitor like weatherman or the whatever the race channel is, pertinent information to the race. The other one is going to be monitor our personal race frequency. So we got those mounted in there. Nice, awesome setup, really secure, clean and out of the way. And you can still have someone sit in the center seat if you have to have a sixth person in the truck, which is really nice. Moving up from there, we did an iPad mount. We're actually going to mount an iPad, and we're going to do lead navigation in this truck versus like a standard Lowrance GPS. So we'll have that mount. That's all done in there, and I actually wired in a 12-volt plug up there, or a USB plug, I should say. That'll actually charge the antenna, and it'll charge the iPad all at the same time. And that's actually put onto a switch, so it's not charging all the time to kill the batteries. The switches are actually a really cool setup that Ford does. It's the upfitter switches that are actually mounted in the ceiling. The wires are already ran all through the cab, and you just got to tie them in up underneath the hood. Really clean setup. They're already fused and relayed. Great setup. Love the fact that that's done, and it's way less work for us to be able to wire accessories in. So the remote here is actually for our airbag system. Pretty cool setup from Airlift. They've got a deal where it actually controls both bags individually. Single compressor, fires right up, and all that compressor does is take care of the airbags. So you grab the remote, you turn it on, it connects, and then you can adjust the pressure left to right, or you can adjust them up and down the same pressure, and you just click whatever you want. It automatically sets it. It'll do it on the fly while you're driving. No issues, and awesome setup, and it definitely helps these trucks out a lot because they got a bunch of weight on them. So Baja is definitely creeping up on us, and we still got a lot to do on this truck, but the list is definitely getting shorter. As far as the main components that got to go into this truck are our hard parts. We got to get like suspension parts, bearings, hubs, rotors, studs, all that kind of stuff that goes on the car that you could possibly break during a race. You hope not to, but you need to have it if it does break. All that stuff has got to be put in the truck and find a nice clean spot, secure spot for it to be able to mount, to be able to go chase 1,000 miles down the road. in addition to all the parts that we got to get mounted and find a spot for in the truck, we got to get a wrap put on this thing so everyone knows that it's a Jagged X chase truck.